This is something to hold us. Our mission is to bring us closer to our emotions, to understand not only who we are, but who we want to be. And today I have joining me.
Danni T.
Thank you for making your way out into the studio.
Thank you for having me.
Danny did say, he did mention before we were having a conversation, so I want to let you guys know he was late. Some people I'd like to pride myself on being timeliness, but let's just say Danny's not one of those people.
I am not.
But it's all good though. I'm really happy to sit down with you. I feel like it's gonna be a very good conversation.
I think so too.
We start off every podcast with something that you're very familiar with, but now I'm realizing I can't call it what I was calling it before, so we're just gonna call it a check-in.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, how are you feeling today?
Today, I am feeling rejuvenated.
Rejuvenate. That's a strong word.
It is.
That's a strong word. You can't feeling like you came back like Jesus on Sunday.
Listen, he rose on the third day.
What's your goal for today or this week?
My goal for this week and for the rest of my life is to stay positive.
You stumped me there with the rest of my life. I was like, all right, okay, I'd process that. But who can you ask for help?
Myself for one, God second.
Okay, so that's. Do you feel like that duo is like Kobe and Shaq?
Very much so. Listen, the Lord is behind me at all times.
I love that.
I am blessed and highly favored.
Could you give me and the listeners one fact about yourself?
One fact about myself. I probably am the most dedicated and compassionate person that you know.
You just coming out with the haymakers. Like, these are some bold statements and words being used.
I mean, I'm a bold person.
So, most passionate and dedicated person that you know.
100%.
And I don't mean this disrespectfully at all, but I mean, let me get to know you better then, because I guess I don't really know you, and I guess that's why you're here, though, right?
That is why I'm here.
So why would you? What makes you say that so confidently?
Because the one thing about me is tenacity, and I think that is a quality that we need in every aspect of our lives. So when I love hard, and if I love someone, I'm there 100%. I will be the loudest one in the stadium. I will be number one fan. Like, my love and dedication to the people that I love and to anything that I love is always going to be full force.
Has it always been like that?
Yeah, unfortunately sometimes, because I am like dedicated and loyal to a fault at times. But I think it's a quality that I love nonetheless.
Okay. I want to touch on that in a bit, but I want to ask, would you say you have a strong foundation?
Yes, I will say I have a strong foundation, but I did not always.
When did you obtain the foundation that you have right now?
I think within the last 2 to 3 years, there's been a lot of great self-reflection and self-exploration that I've done that has caused me to be better as a person, and in turn holding those around me accountable. So in the familial sense, I've always had an amazing support system, and I've always had people that are there for me. But I did not always recognize that. And I did also have people that were around me that did not have my best interests at heart. So as I like learned myself and went through a lot of these life changing events, it grew me mentally, um, and spiritually, and I think that is the cause for the foundation that I have now.
Okay, and so are there characteristics that you can speak to that make your foundation strong now in comparison to what it was before?
Yes, um, authenticity. Um, I think I've always been a genuine person, but truly existing in who I am and loving who I am as a person has contributed to that. Um, and intelligence. I'm smart as a whip. And self confidence, being able to say, like, I am extremely intelligent and I am extremely authentic and I am passionate and compassionate and empathetic. Um, so I think being true to myself.
You also, I'm assuming, are you from the South or is your family from the South?
My family's from the South.
Because
North Carolina's in the building.
that's smart as a whip. I was like, oh, come on now.
That was a little country.
Yeah, that a little.
Yeah.
But I respect it though. So those are the characteristics that you have for yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you think of a strong foundation, is it more so personal?
Yes. I think that everything we do starts with ourselves.
Okay.
Because I feel like no matter how much support you have, no matter how much help you may receive, if you don't want it, you're never going to get it. So you have to want it for yourself and you have to do the work.
But when you want it and you want it for yourself and you do the work, are you open to receiving help?
Not until recently. Um, I'm a self starter, and I am extremely independent. Uh, I think being raised by a single mom, it was kind of like, listen, I'm going to show you how to do it. And from this point on, you have to do it for yourself. So me and my sister both have always been really independent people. Um, and I think that is just like one of the best qualities that you can have, because I don't want to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to just say it. I was a person that for a long time, I felt like if you were getting help, you were weak. Um, so disassociating help with weakness has been a major component for me. And, seeing that there are people who want to help, so you should let them.
And is that something that has changed for you in the last 2 or 3 years, as you said?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And is there a certain experience that you can pinpoint that said, you know what, I need to shift my perspective regarding this?
Yes, it really was a conversation that I had with one of my friends, and we're both the same way. We're both extremely independent. Like, we will fight to pay the bill at a restaurant. We will like argue over like, oh, let me send you this money back. Like, I'll do this. And it's like, no, I got it. Whatever. We got to a point where I financially was not in a good space. And we were talking, and she's like, just let me help you. Like, stop fighting all the time. Like, just let it, like, it's okay to accept help. And I was like, you know what? It is. Like, you're not going to be seen as any less. You're not going to be weaker to the people who love you because you accept the help. If anything, you're stronger because of it, and it makes the relationship just that much better.
Yeah, it's it's another step in being vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I feel like I wouldn't say I was as I don't want to say drastic because I don't know how extreme your independence was, but I used to feel the very same. Like, I had to figure out things for myself. I wanted to do things on myself. When in reality, like, if you could do a quick Google search and get advice from all these different people, or talk to a friend and get advice before you go into any type of experience.
Mm-hmm.
You will perform better.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's really just that simple. You don't have to think, all right, now I need to go do this, and then if I whatever is wrong, I'm gonna figure it out and then try again. Nah, go get some help.
Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Um, that's very difficult to overcome, though.
It is. I think for myself, unlearning that behavior is extremely difficult. Um, I've always been hyper independent. I've always been, don't worry, I got it. I don't need help. I don't need you to give me anything. And it could be something as small as like, "Oh, do you want me to hand you your key?" "No, I'm okay. I got it." Because I felt like they must view me as a weak person. Don't you don't I don't need your help. Are you kidding me? Who are you?
They have no
How can
idea
you help me?
who Danny T is,
Okay,
what
I'm
he is
Danny
capable
T.
of.
I'm Danny T. How can you help me? But unlearning that and learning to kind of be vulnerable in certain situations shows much more strength.
So much more,
Yeah.
and there's a different level of growth and emotional intelligence that you obtain when you get to that level.
Mhm.
With that being said, I also want to ask, not despite, but in addition to overcoming that and being able to accept help, what is another challenge that you recently overcame?
Mm. So, I think the biggest challenge that I've recently overcome, actually in the last month, was um, a friendship ending. A friendship of around 5-ish years. Um, and we just completely stopped talking. Granted, our relationship was rocky for a little while. Um, but I think the biggest challenge for me was overcoming that and being okay with it.
I mean, how open? Let me just ask. Actually, you said this is a friendship for 5 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
What brought it to a close?
Oh, there were several things. I will say sexual identity played a part in it. Um, Not being able to accept yourself. Um, an unwillingness to learn, to change, to grow, and an unwillingness to not be so stuck in your ways.
Was this an intimate relationship?
It was complex.
Okay.
It was very complex. I will say that overall, the label was friendship. Um, but it had its nuances as every friendship does. Um, so yes, it was not intimate, but it was complex.
Okay. And you said this was within the last couple months that you've overcome the challenge of the friendship ending.
Mm-hmm.
What did Can you describe to me what that process is like, of like the friendship ending, and what emotions you felt then, and what emotions you feel now, and the actions you took, if you did take any, to to change how you feel?
I definitely did. I went through a whirlwind of emotions. Um, I think the first one, and the one that nobody likes to talk about, is rage. I was pissed. I mean, absolutely enraged. For several different reasons. One, because of the way that it ended. in our communication in that moment.
So was it not like a mutual ending?
It was not a mutual ending. No, they
Mm.
ended it, which hurts. But as I moved on, or as time went on, rather, um, I realized that I had checked out a long time ago, and we were making it work for the hell of it, like just to say that the friendship was still there. Unfortunately,
And that's a very interesting way to put it, because I imagine a lot of relationships end like that. Like
hmm
they end much earlier than the end ended to
hmm
everybody else, you know?
and it's so funny because like the one thing that we would always say is like we're for life. We love to say that we're for life. Like no matter what happens, we for
Mm-hmm.
L. We locked in. Like which is great in the moment, but then looking back, it's like wow, forever wasn't that long.
Yeah, and emotions are a hell of a thing.
They are.
They'll have you on highs, they'll have you on lows, they'll have you misinterpreting the
hmm
smallest of actions. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And I remember in my situation, like I remember going through our breakup, and I'm like, everybody's asking like, "How are you okay?" and "How's
hmm
this? How's that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good. Everything's gonna be all right. Like everything's gonna be the same. Like we straight." But then that time passed, and you're like, "Wait a second,
hmm
shit will never
Never.
be the same."
And not
Like
only that, you're no longer the person that I remember.
I ain't gonna go that far, but I hear where you coming from.
Well, in my situation, it was like you're not the same person. Like the person that said they would never do this, you
Mm,
did it.
that's different. Yeah.
There were several lines that were crossed um, that we swore we would never do. So I will say that like the two main things that we talked about when things first started, I I know how my mouth can be, and I know how my attitude is, and I know how my temper is. Um, but the one thing that I held true to was I will never call you out of your name.
Respectfully.
You are a man, and I will never disrespect you in the way of calling you a certain word,
Anything out of your name, to be honest.
anything out of your name. But there's a one in particular that I will never call you, that I will never say to you because I feel like at that point I have zero respect left. And in return, his thing was I will never put my hands on you.
Mm.
We'll never go there. Um, so when things changed, I was like, wow, yeah.
Now, there's two things I want to ask you.
hmm
One, are you okay?
I feel like a lot of times I'll just say yes right off the bat because that's the strong one in me. I'm getting there. I'm learning to come to grips with things and working on acceptance. I'm almost okay, but I'm not. I'm not totally okay.
Are you talking to anybody? Anybody?
Um, I've spoken to a friend who is fairly close to the situation and fairly close to me. But other than that, no.
Okay. I mean, I'm all for talking to anybody, as long as it's somebody,
hmm
and especially as long as it's consistent in the way that you need it. You know, because some things that we go through, and it's like we have relationships, right? And
hmm
then I feel like in every relationship, when you break up with a person, you figure out what lines you have or what things you're willing to put up with, right?
hmm
And you can put those things into place in the beginning of a relationship, but when the person that you're with, who made the same agreements with you, crosses that line, it's very traumatic. You
For
know,
sure.
so that's why I really want to ask. Like, appreciate you sharing.
Hmm.
Appreciate you sharing about where you're at mentally, and if there's anything I can do, or I'm gonna check in the future to make sure.
Okay.
Yeah, right. All right.
I appreciate that.
Uh-huh. And the other thing I wanted to ask is, I want to know what the word is, or do you not want to give people ammunition in regard of the word that you will never call another man?
I can say it as long as I can cuss.
Oh, you can do whatever you want on this podcast. This is my joint.
So, the one word that I always promised I would never call him is a bitch.
I knew it was that word as
Yeah,
well, because that is very derogatory.
it is. And I personally, I love the word.
The excitement in your eyes worries me.
I love it. I think it's such a misused word.
No, I feel you, because I say it a lot.
Yeah,
People don't know that, but I say it quite very often. Like,
I call myself that.
I ain't gonna use it like that. I don't call myself that.
I do.
Why do you call yourself that?
Because, okay, in my eyes, that word, um, there's a certain fierceness to it.
100%.
And I think that it's a quality that a lot of people don't like to admit that they have. But I can be a bitch. And sometimes that's not a great thing. Sometimes it's the best thing. Sometimes it's not even in a negative way, but I'm going to show you who I am. Oh, you think I'm a joke? You don't believe me? I'm going to show you just how like fierce and raw and real it can really get. So I felt like it was a reclamation.
All right, it's almost like the twist on the N word. But
Yes.
at the same time, I get you. I get where you're coming from. But for me, it's just seasoning to anything that I'm feeling, especially when I'm frustrated. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
like calling somebody a raggedy bitch is like
Oh yes, that's my favorite.
it soothes my soul. Can't lie.
Cause okay, I'm a major shit talker. So I mean, at any given moment, like if we're into it, the gloves are off, and releasing frustration in that way, it just adds an extra little razzle dazzle on the end.
So we should be telling that your friends or people in general need to come. They should come to you to vent.
Oh, 100%. All my friends know I'm the advice giver.
I mean, you even said it before. Like you the cheerleader. You
I'm
gonna
a
support
ride for
them.
my
He
friends.
said.
I promise you, whatever you're going through, if you want to talk about it, I will talk about it with you. And the best part about me is I'm gonna give it to you straight. I'm gonna be so real with you. Like I'm not one of those friends that wants to hold your hand and like coddle you and I'm gonna it's okay, sweetie pie. No. That's not me.
He just ain't got no time for that.
No.
But what happened to the compassion?
Oh no, I'm compassionate and I'm going to make sure that your well-being is first and foremost. But your feelings, I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear.
Okay. I respect that because I'm not in that business either. I'm gonna tell you what I feel like, and you gotta let me know ahead of time if you just want to vent.
Yes, I'm very much that.
With all this being said, like I can see that you're a very, to your own point, you said authentic, real, and you just try to like say things for what they are, right? How do you navigate, or how do you find direction in your day to day, being that the emotions when you feel them can be so intense?
Breathing. Take a breath before you do any and everything. Recenter yourself, realign, and refocus. Once you're clear on your target, once you're clear on how you want to execute this, then you pursue it. Having a relentless attitude comes with a lot of guidelines and a lot of boundaries. So, understanding that everybody is not the same as you and everybody doesn't work the same as you have to be very cognizant of how you go about certain things. And it's one thing to be real, it's another thing to be mean.
I like that, and um, I feel like kids struggle to make that differentiation through in the process of growing up.
100%.
Have you ever struggled with that?
Absolutely. Um, so I'll be real. At a certain point in time, um, I became the bully. So in the beginning, I was being bullied, and then in turn, I became the bully. And at a certain point, I was just kind of like, you know what, I've had enough. I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna go back and forth. Like I'm not gonna keep taking the constant abuse. Let me start getting back at y'all. Like let me get on the defense and really start gunning for y'all before y'all can gun for me. Um, and then as I got older, that mentality continued, and then I realized, like, dang, at this point, you can't say you're real if you're just being mean. Like 100%, people should hear what you have to say. People should respect and value your opinion.
Uh-huh.
They should never have to suffer as a result of it. So learning how to differentiate between the two and learning how read the room and know who you're talking to. Um, because intent versus impact is a major thing. And just because you intend for someone to take it a certain way, or I intend for the message to come across real, the impact was you were being mean. And I wasn't in a space for that. So, like you said, now it's to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to give it to you the way I know how to. Like, being real, being raw, authentic. Are you okay with that? Are you ready to receive what I have to say? Because if not, and you want me to just be, oh, a shoulder to cry on, an ear to listen, I will 100% do that. But don't ask me for my opinion if you don't really want it.
Huh.
So definitely learning how to gauge situations and leading with love. And you can lead with love and still be real and authentic and tell people what they need to hear.
Yeah, that is very, very, very true. But it is a skill that's got to be molded through experience,
Mm-hmm.
because you're gonna hurt people regardless, even when you lead with love.
Yep, 100%.
And that's just a harsh realization.
It is. And being okay with that.
All right, so it brings me to this point that like you, I feel like in the past 2 to 3 years you've found more understanding of who you are,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Who's the most influential person on your life?
Mm. The most influential person in my life. I mean, there's a few. I will say my best friend, Capri, is definitely one of the most influential people. Um, I think she holds me to certain standards and reminds me of being sure of myself. And that's how I can check myself and continue holding myself accountable.
Through Capri?
Yeah.
So that's a very nice thing to say of a person. It's this might be off topic to some people, but to ask you, could you consider Capri a timely person?
A what?
A timely person?
Absolutely not.
Okay. and I think we can both mutually understand why I asked that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, very much so. No, Capri is not timely at all.
But that's okay. I've grown used to stuff like that. But how long have you known Capri?
We have been friends. Ooh, I think we're on year 7 now.
Uh, so you met in high school?
We did. We met freshman year of high school. It was her first day. She had just moved. And I'll never forget because she always tells it. It was Halloween or the day before Halloween. Um, and I was sashaying down the hallway.
Were you a day before Halloween? Okay, so you weren't in costume.
I was because
Day before
we
Halloween?
were in school. So you know how it's like if Halloween I think was like on a Saturday, that last Friday, like everybody has their little stuff on. So I put on my little cape and my devil horns, and I was in school, and I was just being Danny, and she was like, "I love him. Like he's everything. We're gonna be friends."
That's awesome.
And from that moment, we were best friends.
That's nice. In full transparency, that makes me wish I spoke to her as well.
I know, and I wish that you could have, especially because I think to each other, we're like each other's number one person. And I think, and that's why I gave her, I put her in that position because it was like, if anybody knows me, it's her. More than my own parents, more than, you know, any ex or friend that I've had.
But what I will say, though, in the sake of this conversation, that like the person that you did allow me to speak with was a very from the conversation that we had, seemed like a very genuine, nice person. Like
For sure.
accessible, and I don't mean accessible as in like, oh yeah, you could be call them, they're there when you need them, only when you want them, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But accessible as in like reliable.
Yes. So
So like, I want
her,
to give a big shout out for DB and her transparency, her honesty, and her dedication.
yes. Um, Davion, who we were best friends actually, and it's funny because
Excuse me.
we've kind of um, moved through this weird transition where we started as a group, and then there were 4 of us, and then there were 3 of us, and then there were 2. However, although we aren't as close as we used to be, Davion, I love her to pieces. She absolutely is an amazing person. Um, Sweet as pie, which gets on my nerves sometimes because as the resident Sagittarius, I'm like, I'm gonna keep it real with you. I'm gonna give it to you the way I need to give it to you. Like, hey,
The the resident B word, guys, just so we get that right. The resident.
very much so. And she is the exact opposite. She is super sensitive, um, easily emotional,
No, she sound like a very, very genuine person when I talk to her on the
extremely.
phone.
Yeah,
Like, tell her I said hello.
I will. But she definitely is. She rocks. I love her.
Okay. Could you tell me what emotions you struggle with?
On like a daily basis.
I mean, shit. If it's on a daily basis, then that's the emotion I want to hear.
Right. Um. Oh. I don't want to say anger because it's not anger. Um. But just like being bothered. I get
Bothered by what?
anything. I get irritated very easily.
Could you elaborate? As in, like, even though you get irritated very easily, Give me a few examples of things that would irritate you.
Um, certain things not being done properly.
What is? I keep going.
Okay, so you know what? Why didn't I say this? The feeling that I struggle with a lot is perfectionism.
I just I got that. That's why I stopped myself from asking the question. I'm like, you know what? What does properly? You know what? Never mind.
Right.
Because it's however Danny wants that shit done
Right.
is the way that it need
Is
to
the
be
way that
done.
it needs to be done.
But at the same time, like people really need to acknowledge that like things can get done in a way that's not the way you need it done, and that should be okay. Like it should be sufficient,
Mm-hmm.
and most times it is sufficient. And there are a handful of times. I'm only saying handful for the sake of people being understanding that it's probably more effective than the way that we would have done it. And that's a harsh realization, but like I struggle with that too. Like
Mm-hmm.
getting away from telling somebody the exact way to do something when they have a way to do it for themselves. And
Right.
that should be enough.
Yeah. I was actually just having this conversation, um, and it actually was focused on parenting, um, but it can be applicable to anything. Everybody, and my mother used to always tell me this, you can't expect anyone to do everything the way that you would. You cannot expect Ryan to handle the same a situation the same that you would. Just the same way you can't expect you to handle the situation the way that he would. So the biggest thing for me is coming to grips with that because resident B word here, I'm always right. um, so really being able to say, you know what, and this has like been a major thing for me, and I still struggle with it. I'm not always right, and that's okay. And sometimes your way is better than my way. I'm never gonna admit that. I'm never gonna tell you that.
He said never gonna. Then what are we even talking about, Danny? Like, what you mean you're never gonna admit that?
I'll acknowledge it, but I'm gonna have a hard time.
But what makes it so hard to acknowledge that somebody else's way of seeing something could be better than our own?
Um, Individuality, understanding that every single person has had their own life experiences, and all of those life experiences have contributed to who they are as a person. And in who they are as a person is how they're going to respond to that situation. So, like I was saying about my friend who's extremely emotional, you know, a friendship ending for her is a lot different than a friendship ending for me. And she would be like, okay with crying over it and being vulnerable about it and like talking about it. Whereas I probably wouldn't. But she's not wrong for that. And you can't fault people for how they receive things. They're always going to take it however they take it. Um, and you have to be okay with that. You definitely have to say, like, you know what? I appreciate who you are as a person. And I would not have you around me if I did not value the qualities that you have. So I'm going to trust, not even I'm going to trust, I'm going to realize and acknowledge that you're valid in your feelings and you are valid in however you choose to respond to things because that's you. It's who you are as a person. The only thing that I ask in return is don't judge me for how I respond to it. And that's been very hard to understand for me.
Very hard for you to understand why people can't accept the way you process things.
No, very hard for me to accept the way that other people process things. Um, and understanding that there's not only Danny's way to do it, you know, other people have other ways. And like you said, sometimes what they're offering may be more effective than the way that you're used to doing it. But you have to be open and willing to learn, willing to change, willing to grow. Um, so it definitely was hard for me to acknowledge that.
I appreciate that honesty because it's a process. It's a very difficult process more oftentimes than not.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten into a very heated argument with somebody prior about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just simply having the mindset that you know how something's gonna play out or what somebody's gonna do, and how pretentious it can come across,
Mm-hmm.
rather than asking questions and giving people the space to execute. You know,
100%.
um, but asking about that emotion brings me to the next topic or the next part of the podcast, where I discuss the Book of Human Emotions by Tiffany Watt Smith, and I pretty much take an emotion and I'll define it if you don't already know what it is, and you let me know if you ever felt that emotion, where, when, and why, and if you've what it took to overcome it, if anything.
Mm-hmm.
This emotion is I'm gonna pronounce this incorrectly, but I'm gonna go for it. It's pure des escapes. It was an emotion that was discovered by not discovered or defined by a French psychologist.
Mm-hmm.
His name was Henry Legrand Dussault, and he was the first person to coin that phrase. But over time, it's changed, and it's essentially the feeling of being scared or uncomfortable being in open spaces. Like, another word for that, the more modern word for that would be agoraphobia.
Mm.
So, like, fear of being at, like, going to the market, or walking into a full classroom, or going to school. And I can dive deeper into the word, but I want to ask.
Um, I don't believe that I've ever felt, you know what, due to certain um, differences of lifestyle, I can say I have had apprehension with like parties and being around a lot of people and being around majority of strangers. Um, and on a day-to-day basis, I experience it sometimes, but not as often. But just thinking like, as a targeted person, um, one as a black man, two as a gay man, um, the fear of never knowing if everybody's going to accept you and that the results of that may be fatal. Um, there definitely is a lot of fear there when going into open spaces, especially with unknown parties.
That's very deep answer, and I appreciate you for diving in that way, because I never even thought about it like that. Like, I never thought, like, you can go into situations like thinking, yeah, my friends are telling me let's go to this party, but if these people are accepting of who I am,
Mm-hmm.
that's a fear. Wow, that's real.
Yeah.
That's real, because, like, the only thing that I can experience of that is like going to a party out in Naugatuck and people feeling uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But like, for you, it's layered, and I really appreciate you for sharing that. But diving deeper into this emotion, it's interesting because they talk specifically about how this emotion, so this emotion, ratio wise, where it's like say agoraphobia. They 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 say women are identified as having that 85% compared to 15% for men.
Mm.
And when we take a deeper look at it, they attribute it to the fact that we do live in a hostile society.
Mm-hmm.
Because like originally when it was called Pure Des Escapes, it was around the 1870s, and it was when the world started being much more connected through railroads and inner cities started being created and so on. So like
Mm-hmm.
we had more access to things, and now in this world we have more access to things with like social media or just travel and the meanings of all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you talk about like,
So, well, I definitely can see how um, it's higher in women. Um, and I think because, in the same sense that it affects me, it affects them. Um, Being an easily targeted group, um, and it's so funny. I heard someone say this, but it was like, if you're going on a date, the man's biggest worry is like, this sucks. I'm going to have to pay for this date. A woman's biggest worry is, this sucks because I don't know if I'm going to get murdered.
dude, that's
Like,
and you don't think about that shit.
and you don't think about it. Um, but realizing that um, a lot of these things are real, and that sometimes, unfortunately, people are not always having your best interest in mind. And some people really are just looking for an easy target. And God forbid, but it just may be you. If you are, and I can't tell you how many times and how uncomfortable it is to sit in a room full of straight African American men and not know how this is going to go. Is is everybody going to be cool? We gonna dap each other up. We gonna move on about our business, black man to black man, and that's it. Or am I gonna be targeted? Do I have to worry about my safety? Should there be a concern there? Am I gonna make it home? And I think that's honestly one of the most frightening things that a lot of people don't talk about.
It's like, yeah, and you don't think about that often as myself as like a straight black man. I don't think about that. I mean, shit. I'm just getting into a space where I start thinking about like truly in a sense of what you said, like a woman's biggest fear going on a date is like, am I gonna be murdered or anything
Mm-hmm.
like that? Shit is real, yo.
Yeah.
Like, and I guess that's another a different level of compassion that I'm striving to have for people that being able to understand people that really that don't look live like me at all.
Mm-hmm.
Either way,
Yep.
you know. Um, when was the last time you cried?
Today's Sunday, so yesterday.
You want to share?
I do actually because it was a really good cry. Um, I was on the way to school yesterday, and a song came on, a gospel song, um, and it's called "My Testimony." But one of the lyrics is, "I'm so glad I made it. I made it through. Experienced loss at a major cost, but I never lost faith in you." Um, and I immediately just like broke down.
Experienced loss as a major cost, but I never lost faith in you.
Mm-hmm.
That's a bar.
That's a bar. And I really felt that. I it caused me to self reflect and back to my goal for the rest of my life, which is to stay positive. Um, it's been really hard for me to do that. Um, and experiencing the loss of this 5 year relationship that I had with a person that I never thought, you know, we'd get to a certain point. That happened. Um, and I mean, just like daily life challenges on top of that. And it caused me to just like really self reflect. And it's like, listen, I'm here. I am here despite what could have been, what should have been, what almost was, what I've been through. I'm still here, and you have to make the most of it while you're still here.
That's a fact. And I I've gone through something recently in my life that made me really become in tune with that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to find the words without not without, but just trying to find the words in general. But like really be understanding of like when you're here, like shit might not be always roses, but being here is such a gift in itself,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
The newest phrase that I've been using lately is I am love.
And
And to me, that means that I find love in all of the little moments and all of the little things that are not, you know, the big, oh my gosh, like, it's not always I'm in love with this person. It's not always this big, thing. Sometimes yesterday I went to get some food. I went to Target first. I'm a shopaholic. Um, but I picked up this book and it looked really interesting. And,
what's the name of the book?
huh?
What's the name of the book?
The name of the book, oh my gosh. I,
Excuse me.
just that quickly, I forgot. Um, but it's like I will find you in the ether.
What made it so interesting?
So it's about two people who um both suffer with like psychological disorders. Um and one the male in the story is like this like astrophysicist, and he, quantifies people to numbers, and you know everything is so meticulous and methodical. And to her, she's more of like that cynical, um, kind of dry type of person. Um, and they meet in an art gallery, and they end up finding, and the story is about how they find love while navigating both of their um, psychological ailments. And it really just like stood out to me because I think love is so much more than two people being in a relationship.
What is it to you?
Love to me is any and everything that makes you happy.
Any and everything that makes you happy is love.
Is love.
Okay.
Love, and it doesn't always have to be with another person.
Yeah,
You
anything
can
and everything.
love yourself, love the moments. Like sitting in the coffee shop yesterday reading my book, that was an act of love to myself, you know? Even being here in this moment, like I love you, and this is something that I find joy in, and that I hope that you find joy in.
I love you too, Danny.
And I love you. Like I love and everything about it, because people don't realize you can find it anywhere.
Anywhere.
You can create it. I don't care if you're at home by yourself doing a puzzle, drinking a cup of tea. That's love. That's self-love. That's love for the experience.
Did you always have this understanding of love?
No.
What brought this on?
Um so in the friendship that I had, Um, there was a little bit of a breakdown, and we stopped talking for a couple months. And throughout that couple of months, I began to um, understand and realize that, this person is not quantitative. Like 100%, you can find this within yourself. And I felt like for a long time, like, oh, well, I love my friends, but I have to be doing this in a friendship. Or um, I love my parents, but I have to be, you know, this stand up son, the stand up child. Like, so for that few months where I kind of said, you know what, let me take a break, let me disconnect, refocus, um, I began to gather the understanding that one was that I love and that you love experiencing this and you love feeling this. So why would you make your definition of it dependent on another person?
Yeah, something that limits
There should
such
be
a
no
good
limit.
feeling.
It's and once you realize that you don't need anyone else to have love, and as long as you're loving yourself, it'll all come naturally. Everything else will fall in place. And even if and it's so funny because I posted something the other day, and it was an Instagram story, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna be vulnerable for a minute. Like, I love, and I so badly crave marriage and commitment, and like I want the American dream. I want the three kids and the dog in the big house in the gated community with two cars, and we're like at the top of our careers and our kids are doing well and all those things. um and someone slid up on that story and she said to me, how do you feel if you never found it? If nobody ever said, hey, I want to marry you, hey, I want to be with you, hey, let's get together, would you be okay craving that so badly and never receiving it?
How
My
did you
answer was
answer?
yes. I'd be okay with it.
But I also feel like the another answer to that is as time goes on,
Mm-hmm.
you learn to realize what you're willing to compromise on.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yep,
Because
for
like
sure.
I can't get this out of my head right now. Like I want to get I can't wait to have kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know like and I don't want to sound pretentious, but like I'm gonna be a dope ass fucking dad.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So like even part of my head is like if I don't have a kid, if I don't find a significant other to have a kid with
Mm-hmm.
by the time I'm 35, I'll look into adoption
Mm-hmm.
because I don't feel like having a mother would be ideal and beneficial, but I feel like to your point about foundation,
Mm-hmm.
for me it's a little bit different. It's about the things that I have around me that keep me centered.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like when I identify those things, I have those things in place that would allow me to be successful and allow the child to be successful if they didn't have a mother,
Mm-hmm.
if worst case scenario.
Right.
So
So to that point, one, I think you'd be a great dad.
appreciate you.
And two, I feel the exact same way. Um, Given the circumstances that I biologically can never carry a child, um, adoption has been much more of a prevalent conversation. Um, but I always say, and I've said it to like my friends, I've said it to everyone that I come in contact with, I feel as though, and why I work with the kids that I do, is I feel as though I was put on this planet to be a parent. I feel
I
like that
respect
is
that.
one of the biggest things. And, I was raised by a single mom, um, and she did the absolute best that she could. and I love and appreciate her for everything that she's ever done for me. My goal is to give my child, and I'm not going to say, I don't want to say it in a quantitative way, but I'll just say that I want to give them every opportunity that I can possibly get them as far as their parents are concerned. I don't want my children to have to want for anything, and I pray that they never do. Um, but I definitely feel like if it never got to the point where I was in a marriage, because I badly want a two-parent household, because that's, like you said, that's ideal.
Ideal.
Um, I would be okay doing it alone because I know that I'd be enough. And to that foundation, which is why I feel like it's more of a personal thing, in my opinion, is because it's like I have all the tools necessary. And I think that a parent's job is to give their kids every possible tool that I can, for you to have your best foot forward in this world, especially because more than likely my kid will be another black child in America, and that is a very hard thing to be currently. Um, so I want to make sure that they're off to the best possible start. But I'd be okay. I answered it and I was like, you know what? I actually would, because I love myself enough and I'm secure enough in myself that I know I'm enough in any aspect.
And I only ask this because like I I'm 31,
Mhm.
and I don't consider myself old yet.
Mhm.
That's like middle, you know.
Right.
But I also tell myself like, are there things that like we talked about before? As you go through different relationships, you realize what are things that you can put up with and what things that you're not willing to put up with, right?
Mhm.
So now, being at the age that I'm at now, like, are the things that I'm acknowledging that I need to work on personally because I don't want that to be a deal breaker for somebody else.
Right.
And I know that you have a lot of confidence in yourself and what you have to offer right now, but do you ever ask yourself that?
Yes. Um I think in general, like the hardest thing for me is, or has been, um to the point of like realizing that everybody's different and everybody handles things differently. Also, just accepting that you are not perfect. Like, in being a perfectionist, I kind of tend to overlook that sometimes. And I feel like, you know what? I'm the prize. Like, I'm the goal. I'm the hot. I'm the hottest thing walking, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with me. But that's untrue, because we all have things that we have to work on. Um, so understanding that sometimes I'm quick to anger, understanding that sometimes I can take things too far, realizing that I do have a short temper, and sometimes my attitude can get a little bad. Like, understanding and recognizing those things only will make you stronger as a person. And if you're going to require something of someone else or hold someone else to a certain standard, you have to be okay with the opposite of that and hold yourself accountable into those certain standards.
Okay. So, with all that being said, when was the last time you said sorry?
It's been a long, long time.
So, I'm gonna keep it real with you, Danny. That's a very that's an that's a red flag.
It is.
If we want to talk about growing and looking back on our past and being more understanding.
Mm-hmm. It is a red flag. Um, the last time I said sorry, you know what? And unfortunately, I cannot remember it.
And that's all we need to do. I don't even need to dive in deeper to that.
Mm-mm. Nope.
Just just take that with you.
Because yeah, like understanding that you have to kind of, like you have to be grown enough and you have to be secure enough to say, like, you know what, sometimes I was wrong.
And when you say grown enough, there's another level of that, of saying sorry in situations that you didn't really need to be proved right.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like going above and beyond just to break somebody's spirit to prove yourself right. And I don't say break somebody's spirit in a way that's so aggressive, but it's in the fact that, like, that is what you do when you're hyper focused on proving yourself right.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
That you forget to consider other people's feelings.
And it's not that deep. Like, I'm learning now, like, you know what? Sometimes I don't need to be right. If it's gonna mean that our relationship is gonna move forward, and some other point we can address this,
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to be right now.
It's not worth it.
Not at all.
And understanding like the weight of the relationship and really gauging, like, hey, if I pursue this issue, where will that get us? Versus table it, I'll accept defeat. And it doesn't even have to be a defeat, but like I'll concede. I'll say, hey, you know what? This is what happened. We'll leave it here. We don't have to take it any further. And I think that unfortunately a lot of situations end because of that, and not being able to be grown enough and say, you know what, I was wrong, or you know what, it's not worth us fighting about it. Like, just understanding, like, hey, everything doesn't always have to be an issue, and I'm learning that also. Like, stop fighting.
Yeah. Sometimes a fight is it's just a fight, and it's just like a waste of energy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, have you practiced self care today?
Today, no,
Will you? Be honest. It's okay.
no.
Well, I hope you do this week.
I'm going to try. You know what? I'm not going to try. I will, and I will hold myself accountable because I do have a tendency to put others before myself. Um, so I will.
I'm telling you from first-hand experience, like, it's a terrible thing to do. Not in the sense that, like, it's not nice to put others before yourself, but in the sense that, like, putting others before yourself is like those are the moments where I feel the emphasis of, if you're not straight, you can't help people.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay. So my thing right now, currently, is I cannot pour from an empty cup, and his cup runneth over. But that means that his cup had to be full in order to pour into anyone else. You cannot, and what I've learned and am learning, you cannot give anybody what you don't have. And when you do, and when you try to, you unknowingly make them a thief.
Yeah, and then you have this resentment.
And it's not on them.
That's real. I like that.
You have the personal responsibility to say, you know what? While I would really like to do this for you, or while I would really like to be that person for you, mentally, emotionally, I can't.
And yeah, and that is a feeling that I'm getting more used to. I go in and out of that because, like, there be moments where I'm like, I'm saying no consistently, and then I'm starting to say yes, and I'm like, yo, shit, I ain't saying no in a minute, and you're drained.
Yeah, 100%. Learning how to say no has been a rough one because, like I said, I'm so passionate and I'm so loyal and dedicated, and I hyper focus on that to where I feel inadequate if I don't show up for you. But in all actuality, I have an entire life and other experiences and things that I've gone through, whether it be today, whether it be in the last week or the last month, that I may not be in the right space to, you know, give my all. So learning to say, you know what, I really can't do that. I would love to. Danny, I need help with this, financial situation. I'm so sorry you're going through that. And I absolutely love you. And if I had it, I would. But I can't give you what I don't have.
Yeah, because I'll be quick to put myself in a hole helping everybody else but myself.
Right. And it's like, I'll sit here and now I've covered everybody else's expenses. Everybody else is good. I have nothing left for myself.
Shit.
Or emotionally, like, hey, Danny, I'm going through this breakup. Or, hey, I'm going through this issue with my parents. And I'll always be the one to, like, oh, well, let me do this for you. And let me, talk to you about this. And, well, we could talk about that. But saying, you know what, God, I'm really sorry that you're going through that. And I will support you in any way that I possibly can. But right now, I cannot give you what you're asking of me because I don't have it.
Respectfully.
Respectfully.
Yeah, and that's real, and that's a never ending process for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like some days I got it, some days I don't, and
Yep.
I have to just acknowledge like that's gonna be the process, and we'll see how it goes from here. I'm
Yeah.
hoping to get better at it at a more frequent rate, and that's all I can ask for.
Yep. I'm hoping for that for you.
Thank you. I hope that for you too.
Thank you.
The next section of the podcast is called "Feel This Way." I will say a word, phrase, or statement, and I want you to tell me what emotions, thoughts, and memories it sparks. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
The first word is boundaries.
Lacking.
As in, like, you don't know how to set them up.
Yes. I'm lacking. I I'm working on not lacking certain boundaries.
Being cognizant of that fact is the first step.
Mm-hmm.
So that second step, what does that second step look like for you?
Um, the second step is analysis.
As in,
And so, um, really looking at a way that this individual experience affects me. And from that point of analyzation, I can say or gauge, okay, here's the line that I need to draw. And then I can move forward from there with realizing how far do I want it to be? What does this person mean to me? What does this situation mean to me? How do I want us to come out of this? So understanding and thinking about all of those things before making the hard line decision kind of just gives me better clarity.
okay, I can dig that. Um, is there a boundary you need to think about setting up for this week?
A boundary setting up for this week. Yes. And that boundary is support.
Boundaries on your support?
Mm-hmm.
Elaborate.
So, boundaries as far as what I am willing and unwilling to accept, as far as how our support for each other matches up. So I'll say in clear terms, the boundary that I'd like to set for this week going forward is that any person in my life that I hold dear, that you are supporting me as much as you, not as much as you possibly can, but supporting me in the sense of like whatever you can give me, but support me the way that I support you.
I
which
think
is
it's hard to ask people to support you the way that you support them.
100%.
It's almost selfish.
It is, and it's never going to be 100%. You know, symmetrical. There are certain ways that I can show up for people that they cannot show up for me. However, the bare minimum, I'm no longer willing to accept.
I like that.
I'm not going to continually accept one sided support.
Yeah, you gotta set your standards.
Yes. So I'll say that that's a boundary is making sure that we are both supporting each other.
I like that. I like that. The next word I have is luxury.
Want. I want luxury.
I see that by all the bags that you have.
My Louis Vuitton bag sitting over there. um, no, I listen. Okay, so everybody's on my case because I spend a lot of money. However, okay, I'll just get deep with it. It comes from a sense of not having. Like, I wasn't in the worst position growing up, but I mean, I was living no lap of luxury. Like, I did not have a silver spoon in my mouth. I worked for everything that I have. And I think also people's definition of luxury is different. For me, luxury is comfortability. And if I'm comfortable in Prada and Louis Vuitton, I should be able to wear my Prada and Louis Vuitton proudly.
And now this is shit. I respect it because I wouldn't purchase the things that I purchase if I didn't feel how you felt.
Right.
And like that shit is real. Like the not having will lead you to wanting certain things, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's a negative in that because as long as you can afford it and you're happy, then treat yourself. You know what I mean?
100%. I think, like, for myself and being what I call a pourer
Mm-hmm.
or a giver, I'm constantly pouring into other people. I am constantly giving to other people. I'm constantly doing for other people at the expense of myself, physically, emotionally, financially. So, getting to a point where I can say, you know what, I never had this growing up. If I can afford it and it's not going to break my bank, you damn right I'm going to buy it for myself because I deserve to have nice things.
Rightfully so, and I fucking feel it. And listen, we don't even gotta dive any deeper into that because I'm right with you. If it's some nice shit,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like I deserve that,
Oh, I'm going to get it.
I'm gonna get it.
I don't give a damn what you think about it.
We gonna, we'll, you'll see me in it. That's it.
Right.
That's it.
When you see me walk through, you know what's going on.
The next word I have is Monstera.
Ryan.
I had to give myself a little shout out. I did.
Yes.
Plans.
So,
what about them?
I will say, one, thank you because I love my Monstera.
You're welcome.
And her name is Samantha now.
It was something else before.
No. So she's Sammy. That's
Okay,
Samantha. But she's grown so big that we were able to propagate her. And now Stouffer has one. And her name is Zoe.
Mm-hmm.
So we're working on, and I don't know if you've seen it yet, but recently I just repotted and gave her a bigger pot. She looks fuller. She's healthier. She got some new soil.
Okay, I saw the soil bag.
Yes. So I have been working on trying to maintain the things that make me happy, and that is one of the things that makes me happy.
How are the roots looking when you repotted?
They were healthy. They were a little cramped. So,
that's perfect then.
So I was like, you know what? It was the perfect time to finally give her some more room.
Yeah, because now it's about to go crazy. In the perfect weather?
Yes, this weather, I'm like,
you about to have like a 3-4 foot plant.
It's going to be huge. I cannot wait.
Oh, shit. All right. Shout out to you, man. The next word I have is, it's honestly a little bit coincidental.
Mm-hmm.
Hyper independence.
Danny.
Like, it's crazy.
It is crazy.
That you said it and everything.
Okay, so I will just give you
Like,
a little.
I want you to know, it's like, this word did not change.
Wow. So I will give you a little um insight. I am extremely intuitive, and for some reason, my brain picks up on things before they happen. So a little bit of a medium. No, I'm not like talking to ghosts or anything, but I definitely like usually am aware of like things before they happen. But to your point, hyper independence, Danny, for sure. Um, I have had certain experiences in my life and in my childhood specifically that have catapulted me into the realm of hyper independence because I felt like I couldn't count on anyone. Um, and it sounds bleak, but I always say it. Help is not coming. And people, when I first say that, everybody's usually like, "Oh my god, like
It's very bleak.
it sounds bleak. It sounds like horrible. Why would you say that?" But in the sense, what it means to me is when I say help is not coming, you have to do it yourself. The work, you have to do it yourself. Nobody's going to come and save you. And in certain situations, it does happen. Some people hit the lottery, some people, coincidentally run into a billionaire and become best friends like that. But how often does that really happen?
Yeah.
So help isn't on the way. So you have to do it yourself. It's gonna be tough. And, I talk a lot of like with my friends and my family about healing. Help is not coming. You have to go through it. It's gonna hurt. It's going to be probably one of the hardest things that you've ever done. But when you get through it, you're better because of it. You have to do the work. Nobody else is going to say, you know what, Danny, you're going through this. I really hate that. Dang, let me give you this. Let me do this for you. And I never experienced that. So, on the flip side of that is the micro moments of help that you do get, accept it because that's the leg up. But use it to your advantage. Make sure that it's working for the positive benefit of yourself. You have to make sure because at the end of the day, my sister used to always tell me, the nobody got you like you got you.
Uh-huh.
You can't count on sister to run in and save the day. Mommy and daddy can't always come save the day. Auntie, uncle, cousin, best friend, whoever is not always going to be there in the exact way that you need them. So you have to navigate, dang, how do I get to this point on my own?
Uh-huh.
And I think that's what a lot of people lack is like understanding independence. Um, so
But
it's not always a great thing.
there's a balance to it then, right?
There's a balance.
And like, how have you how have you, if you have, found that balance? Because like in the beginning of this podcast or this conversation, I hear you say like being open to accepting help.
Mm-hmm.
But then like you talk about your experience with hyper independence and it sounds so passionate as if like you're still in it.
Mm-hmm. And I think it is because I'm still learning it. I'm still learning to accept the help. So I do definitely still have a lot of moments where I'm like, you know what, I got to do it myself. But when you get it, take it and take it for what it is. And I mean, okay, that it sounds horrible, but it's just my thought process is that help the people that are offering the help may not always offer it. And
As in?
As in, I think that I have a feeling that everybody won't always be there. And I think there's some abandonment issues going on there. Um, so it's like accept it while you have it, but if it does not come, you have to be able to do it on your own. So to your point, there's definitely a balance, and I'm still learning that balance.
Okay, I can take that. I like that. Um, the last word I have is self acceptance.
Self acceptance. Um, what comes to mind? Life,
So, self acceptance of your own life or just people's lives in general?
both, and in order to make the most of your life, you have to have self acceptance. You're given one shot at this. Like, this is it. You're in it. Like, this is the race. You were born, you're alive, and you're making your way through it. The only way to make the most of it, to me, you have to accept yourself first. I struggled a lot with insecurities. Um, for the longest time, like I've worn glasses. Um, I for a long time did not think that I was. Um, and you know what? I'm not even gonna say that I think that I wasn't. I am not and have never been the beauty standard of America. Like I've had major insecurities with my body, um, even down to my own voice. Like I spent years picking myself apart. Like, oh, I gotta change this. Oh, I don't like this. Oh, this looks bad. Oh, I can't do like you have to be comfortable with the skin you're in because this is it. This is the body that God gave you, and you absolutely have to make the most of it. You have to go through life knowing and feeling like there can never be another you because there will never be another you. So once you understand that and you take that in, you can say, you know what? I'm going to make the most of my life because I love who I am and I love what I'm doing and I love the person that I am. And no, I'm not perfect. I'm always growing and I'm learning and I'm changing, but I love myself through it all. So, when we talk about self acceptance, to me, it's really the key to a happy life. Because, in the words of RuPaul, if you can't love yourself, how in the hell you gonna love somebody else?
That's a great quote. That's a great quote. Um, I love that because like self acceptance really is everything. It's like the root of everything, and I wish like there was a way that we could really put that into the curriculum of schools because like they get caught up on all these different things of like what they feel like they really need to teach people, but like these kids are graduating high school without really acknowledging the fact that they're okay with being themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They're so often just stuck on this everything that I have, everything that I am, everything that I do is not enough.
Right.
When it is.
It is. You're enough.
Like you are enough on day one.
A
And
100%. I don't
it's
know who needs to hear it, but I'm gonna say it again. You're enough. You are absolutely enough. And and that's with everything that's not so great about you. That's with the fact that I'm a little pushy, with the fact that I'm a little bossy. I'm still enough.
uh
I have some things I got to work on. We all do. But I love who I am as a person. And as a pourer and as a giver and an advice giver, how can I sit here and support you when I can't accept myself?
Real shit.
I can't do that for you if I don't even believe it for myself.
Yeah, and that's with that being said, I think that because the last episode I had, I talked about like looking for answers in certain situations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think with this conversation I had with you, it reinforces the fact that like if you have a child, a student, or whatever that is hyper aggressive or very derogatory when they're talking about their peers and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
um, you really just need to focus on reinforcing who they are, and that might come across as rewarding bad behavior to other people, but you need to teach somebody to love themselves before you can teach them to love other people.
Mm-hmm. And it does come across to some people as rewarding bad behavior. Um, but to me, what it is acknowledging that you're human. We are multifaceted beings with all types of experiences, traumas, lifestyles, personalities, and all those things play a part. And while they may not all be amazing qualities, it's still who you are as a person. And you have to accept that. Now, once you get to that point of acceptance, you can say, hey, you know what? I have a deeper sense of self realization, and I feel like I need to change this. So let me work on this, or let me work on that, you know? But it's still who I am as a person. And we've had all of these life experiences that have brought them to where they are. Like, yes, that student may be extremely aggressive. That student may be a little bit of a bully. But acknowledging that there's something that brought them to that point. There's something that happened. There's some situation. There's some type of disconnect that happened along the way to bringing them to understanding, hey, you know what? It's okay for me to do this, or it's okay for me to behave in this way. But you can't just reform the behavior. You have to say, you know what? I have to acknowledge it. And they say that when you have a problem, the first step is acknowledging that you have a problem. So, how can I acknowledge my problem if I don't accept it?
Yeah.
I am who I am. For example, I may be a bad friend. Okay. But I can't work on that until I say to myself, you know what? Dang, I'm a little bit of a shitty friend. I have to acknowledge it. I have to accept it. And then I can say, great, how do I change it? How do I move from here?
Yeah, that acknowledgement and acceptance is almost more than 50% of the battle.
Mm-hmm.
Damn. Um, I do want to share with you a quote that I got from a friend of yours
Mm-hmm.
that they really want you to hear, which was, keep being you, you're on the right path, and everything will work out as it's supposed to, and you're loved and appreciated.
All right, I'm about to start crying. And I'm so not a crier.
Take your time. 'Cause I know, like,
I
talking.
think when you don't know someone and you don't know their story,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's very easy to judge them. And I've gotten a lot of criticism about who I am as a person because people don't always understand the way that I operate.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so for me, I'm glad to know that someone appreciates me for who I am. And I know that they're not the only one, but it feels good to hear it. Um, because sometimes, like, your strong friends need the support. And it's really hard to be strong all the time. And I feel like that's something that I've gone through where it's like you have to show up. You, like, to that perfectionism thing, like you have to be the perfect son, the perfect brother, the perfect boyfriend, the perfect best friend, the perfect anything and everything. But it feels good to have someone acknowledge um, that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, they see your efforts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like all that work you put in that you think, damn, nobody sees like those those micro moments of development, like where you're like you make that right decision
Mm-hmm.
in comparison to the decision that you would have made a long time ago.
Right.
So that's very important.
Yeah.
So that's why I say like when I had a conversation with this person, they sounded like a very great person. Okay, so make sure you tell them I said hello.
Definitely will. They're amazing. It's just, a lot of times you don't get the recognition.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels really good because when you do a lot for people, a lot of it goes unnoticed because unfortunately people, in natural human way, it's an entitlement thing.
Yeah,
You're always there.
and it's not just an entitlement thing; it's a expectation.
Right.
So you put everything the front that you put up is the front that they see.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not necessarily just their fault.
It's not.
So like, I had a student that recently was like, we were talking and he was trying to schedule some time with me to work on some homework after school on Tuesday. But I go to therapy every Tuesday. So every Tuesday at 2 o'clock I go and he's like, I'm like, damn, I can't, I got a doctor's appointment.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, what you mean? And I'm like, why did I say doctor's appointment? So I just tell him, I'm like, oh, actually, I have a therapy appointment on 2 o'clock on Tuesdays, every Tuesday. And he's like, oh, you go to therapy? And I'm like, yeah. And just being open about that made him like, he's like, yo, I didn't think that you were going to be somebody that need to go to therapy because you here helping everybody.
Yep.
And I'm like, nigga, that's exactly why I'm going.
That's right. No, really. And it's like we get that a lot because like with our line of work, your goal is to help in every way that you can.
Mm-hmm.
Your goal is to advocate. Your goal is to, find resources to aid and support in every single way that you possibly can. And it's interesting because, and they say it all the time, like kids are so intuitive and like they kind of always know. But on the flip side of that, while they know, it's easy to fall into the habit of like, this is an adult and this person is here for me. Whenever I need Danny, I can call Danny.
Yeah.
Whenever I need Ryan, I can call Ryan.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what it is.
Not at all.
But understanding that, going back to you can't pour from an empty cup.
Mm-hmm.
And when you give people what you don't have, you unconsciously make them a thief. They are taking something from you that you don't have to give, but it's not their fault.
I'm bringing it all the way back.
Bringing it right back around. It's just acknowledging, like, hey, you know what? Sometimes we gotta take care of ourselves. All the time we have to take care of ourselves. And whatever that means to you. Even if that's, you know what? I bring my little cousin to soccer practice on Thursdays, but my schedule's really busy. And Thursday's the only day where my afternoon is free. So I have to say, like, we have to figure something else out. I have to take care of myself first.
Yeah.
And people think that it's selfish, but it's really self-full.
Yeah, it's like you really have to put yourself in a position to really be successful. And a lot of that is saying no to things that just drain you.
Mm-hmm.
But the way I end this podcast is with a poem. And my last episode, I talked about like taking a step back with my poems because sometimes it feels like a chore
Mm-hmm.
to make sure I always have something new. But I feel like this fits. It's a haiku. It goes, worry stole my calm. How right now is tomorrow brought me some resolve. This is something to hold us.